Well, it's Monday, and it's almost like, I won't say crackerjack, but it's that sort of thing. David Ashford is joining us. Thanks for his time. It's been an interesting few days, as always. I don't know really where to start. Should we go back to the press conference?
Yeah, more than happy to.
I mean, I was kind of very keen about timelines and everything. It seemed a bit messy. When the Chief Minister folds his arms, I always think, oh, something's up. But no, seriously. Anything that you'd like to clarify? Because we are so difficult to do.
I'm more than happy to run through.
Please.
And obviously, this is a lot longer form than the press conference, so it's probably much easier to do. So the options were, that's probably the best way to go about it. We could have called a press conference late Tuesday night, first thing Wednesday. The two cases weren't identified until late Tuesday evening. So what that meant was, obviously, once those cases are identified, we have to undertake contact tracing. So we have to find out who they've been in touch with. And then arrange for those people to be tested. So what actually happened was, Tuesday evening we could have called a press conference, but you
could have just made a press release.
Yeah, but even if we'd put a press release out at that point saying that there's two people, we wouldn't have been able to say anything about contact tracing, we wouldn't have been able to say anything about testing.
No, but what it would have done, it would have stopped the hairs running. This is where I was trying to get to.
Well, no,
because the word was, the drums were banging around by that.
I've got to say, to be perfectly honest, I think it would have set more hairs running.
Yeah.
Because, and like I say, and on the Wednesday morning, again, we could have held a press conference, but if we had gone out, all me and the Chief Minister would have been announcing is we had two cases where it was contracted in the community. Mm-hmm. You guys in the media, quite rightly, your first question would have been, how widespread is this? Our answer would have been, we don't know. Your next question would have quite rightly been, how many people have these people been in contact with? Because contact tracing was ongoing, our answer would have been, we don't know. Then your question would have been, well, how many of those high-risk contacts potentially have tested positive? And the answer again would have been, we don't know. The contact tracing was completed late on Wednesday, which allowed us to get a press release late out on Wednesday to say the contact tracing.
7:15, and I was in touch with you. I mean, you didn't see it because I was literally trying all aspects. I couldn't get hold of comms, I couldn't get hold of you, I couldn't get hold of anybody, but I'm getting all this information, I think triangulated as well.
Because that was when we actually knew the full details around the contact tracing. We still didn't have all the test results back from the high high exposure contacts. The final bulk of those came through between noon and 1 on Thursday. Okay. So literally 3 hours before the press conference. Because one of the things I've said all along, Paul, and I say it again, is we will always keep the public informed. We always will tell them what's going on. I mean, for goodness sake, we held a press conference at 10 a.m. on a Sunday, if you remember when we had the first travel back case. But we will only do so once we have the full picture and the full information. Because if we went out and we did not have the full picture, so if we'd held a press conference, say on Wednesday, announced all this, when we couldn't tell you how widespread it was, we couldn't tell you how much contact tracing had been done, we couldn't tell you how many people had tested positive, all that would have happened is on the Thursday, me and the Chief Minister would have been able to lay that out. And quite rightly, the immediate accusation would have been, well, why have you panicked everyone?
Okay, can I have a go?
Yep.
Right. This is how I see it. It was so difficult we couldn't go back and forth on that press conferences. I'm getting loads of calls. Other people are getting loads of calls. So there is a lot of interest out there. If nothing else, surely, I mean, and we were messing around with these words because it wasn't, World Health Organization and how it was, we've done all that. But surely, just to give the warning that something's up makes people more acutely aware and they can make decisions themselves. I mean, I was sanitising my hands straight away going into shops, when we knew this something was up. And it's just that feeling that you are communicating straight away and not holding back. And it may be that what you said is exactly right, but at least obviously, you said it, but maybe perception's something you're missing here, that just indicating we have got an outbreak. Clusters of papers are saying, I don't suppose you will go that far, but
it is a cluster.
You'll call it, okay.
That's exactly the definition
that is
it
right
is. It is a cluster because it is a group of people with the same transmission route, and it is enclosed into that cluster. There's no sporadic cases, certainly as yet identified. But what's important, and I understand what you're saying there, and yes, there's lots of speculation on social media, but we're not going to respond to every single bit of speculation on social media. Some of it was correct. but there was an awful lot posted on social media that I saw that was completely and utterly incorrect as well. And unfortunately,
that's why it
goes. Well, no, because we can't give personal identifiable information.
It's a catch.
We can't. It is the catch-22. We can't share anything that forms part of the patient's medical record, and so it's very, very hard when people step up.
Down to an age range. I mean, like, come on.
Well, no, because it's solo cases. You may remember with the age ranges during the pandemic, we did release them, but you can only do so when it reaches the point where it's not identifiable. So you've got to have a bulk number of cases to be able, so you can't point out.
Right. If this happened exactly again like it did, you would do exactly what you did.
Yes.
Even though you got the journalists onto you,
we have to do it when we have all the information as to what is actually happening. Okay. We're not going to panic over things. We're not going to push things out in a sporadic way, because quite rightly we would have been criticised for that. I can see it right now. If we'd announced on Wednesday when we had none of the details whatsoever, and we didn't have the full picture, we would have been accused of causing mass panic.
We'll have to agree to disagree, because I think personally, Guernsey has always given the impression they're putting everything out there straight away, and I don't know. I just felt
Guernsey, from my understanding, it was 48 hours later.
Okay,
if I remember rightly. When they had the cluster information,
right. I thought
was my understanding.
Okay, I mean these press conferences, we could talk about that for a long time, but let's talk about what's been happening elsewhere. I mean, you're happy that everything's under control now. I mean, there's no more.
Yeah, there's no need for us to take any further measures. It is a confined cluster. We've discussed this before, and I've always been quite clear. These things will happen. This is a virus. Viruses are very clever things. They tend to be able to spread quite easily, and so we are going to have patches. The time to worry is when we start seeing cases that we can't identify a train of route of transmission, because that means we can't easily shut it down. Whereas with this, we know back from the index case of where it came from to the spread, we've been able to test people, isolate them off, and off the back of that, obviously do testing around high-risk contacts who have now been coming back as negative.
Okay.
And they are isolated themselves anyway with being a contact.